Let's talk some footy, shall we? Our Saturday night games, starting with the Titans and the Bulldogs. Hope the fantasy gods were nice to you yesterday. There's a few up and down ones for me anyway, with a couple of my trade-ins. One absolutely killing it and one having his sort of worst game of the season, but is what it is. We'll start here with our Titans, boys. And it was a good one for me with Fogs with 67, which was good. But we got Mofo up top with 94 in his 60 minutes. He was absolutely incredible the whole game. Every run, they couldn't even tackle him. He's just bouncing people off. So he's someone that becomes a very, very interesting option. Obviously, after a 94, he's going to be up near 600k, you'd imagine, even though he's lost a bunch of money. But that brings him up to a 50 and a half average, which before that was about 47. So hasn't been playing as well as you would have hoped. But if he can continue some more games like that, and I think they're a much better team when he's playing that way. Obviously, it was against the Dogs, and you probably can't expect that every week. But he's someone that becomes slightly interesting. Who's he's not going to play Origin. And could do well for you. Thompson was an interesting one after having a fairly big break through the middle of the game there. After people were like, is he injured? What's going on? He comes back on and he picks up a try with no real negatives there, only the one error. So a massive game from Thompson again, 69 in 45 minutes. So the question will be, will he keep these minutes, or is he going to go back to the 60 odd? Maybe it was a week they were trying to give him a little bit extra rest. Because the last bunch of weeks have been so heavy for him. So I'm not sure. And then on the other side, Tino was really strong with his 69 as well. So well on to him with the little try there, which was something we expected a little bit more to happen and hasn't really happened so far. Moving on to Fogs, and he's someone that just one try assist, kicks his goals and gets 67, which is incredible. So moves up to a 52 average now, and that includes obviously his really low game where he got 5 or 6. And a few 30s in there. So to have that average and be this price, I think he's a really cool option for anyone's side. Him, Moses, these types of guys are going to do pretty well. Even if the team only does okay or loses, they're going to get that 45 plus with these big 60s games, which has been more prevalent for Fogs over the last bunch of weeks, especially. So really happy with him and his output there. We moved to Kotrick and 66 there, just a much better game for him. Obviously got a couple of line breaks, try assist and a try, which is good, but again, not an option I'd be looking at. Averillo has been absolutely incredible. I traded him when he had that small injury in round 3 or something like that, and then he comes out and does this. So averaging 42 now, and he's clearly one of the best centers in the game right now. If it continues where he gets to do the bulk of the kicking, 478 kick meters, if he continues that and he's tackling well and solidly there, he's kicking goals for the amount of tries that the Dogs score. He's one of the premier centers in this game, and it has the half dual position as well if you ever need it. So, amazing work for him. And he's someone that is going to be way too expensive come round 14. But if there happens to be any injuries, he could be someone that's a really good option in that period there. But I wouldn't be trying to bring him in now with 1 week until their bye. Hopper with 58. So sitting basically at his starting price now at 395, a much better game from him. 30 tackles in the centers, which is pretty crazy. So well on to him. Again, not someone I'd be looking at this point. Sammy got 55. Brian Kelly with 48 was a nice solid game for him. 209 meters for a center is great. And a lot of them were just sort of getting some early ball and making 20, 30 meters before doing something, whether it's a try assist or the odd tackle break there. You only had 2. So to get 48 with only a couple of tackle breaks and 2 offloads there, and no tries is really solid. So he's becoming a better option. He's still if you're needing someone under 450 in your centers, then I think it might be a decent time to pick him up in that round 12 or 13 there. So you can have a good scorer or a decent scorer anyway in your centers that has the chance to become a keeper if the Titans start playing a lot better. Because we know what he did at the back end of last year where the Titans were great. So if you're looking for something like that, then that could be good. We moved to Brimson and a couple of tries, only 2 tackle breaks, 234 meters though, which is solid. So again, he's doing a job for you in the wing fullback. Still very cheap at a 550 price tag. So again, if you're needing someone at a cheaper price point in the wing fullbacks that's going to be playing 13, you would imagine so. I don't think he's going to get the bench position, but you never know. You'd imagine if Grant's fit to play, it could be like a Reed and a Grant combination, and they can sort of cover a few positions if they need to. And that would leave no real room for Brimson with Ponga coming back in the next week or so. So, something to think about there. Elliott played through the middle this time. He did look a lot better, but picked up 44 in his 53 minutes. So, if you're still owning him, it's time to move on. with their bye coming up, especially too. Chris Smith, one we want to talk about too, and Ranuf Tony. So Ranuf there with 40 in his 41 minutes. Again, one of those guys that if you're picking him up in the last few weeks, it probably wasn't a good idea. You needed to pick him up obviously a while ago when he's making money and those good scores. He just hasn't been able to hit the 50 odd that he was in those bunch of weeks there. And just something to think about with these types of guys that haven't really been on the scene too much and can go back to these lower scores after a few good ones, a few standouts or a few extra minute games, and then come back to the pack there. When you look at Smithy, he played 58 minutes, was really, really, really low score for the majority of it, and then picked up a try, which helped him. But he's someone that at this price point at 372 is a little bit too much to go for one of these guys in a bad team that you're not sure how he safe his spot is. Jackson could come back into the second row and take him or Dury's spot, for example. So yeah, have that in mind when you're looking at those types of guys. Moving down the list, and people are asking about Shoop or Shop, however you say it. He looked okay in his time on the field and then had some cramps and whatever at the end, so he went off at the last little bit. But again, this is what can happen with centres in an average side, especially when a few of their wingers actually did pretty well. So something to think about. And let's talk about Mr. Don, just sticking strong with his 12 average for the year. So good on him. I do love him as a player though, Anthony. But that one was a pretty normal game, that first one there. When you move to the Roosters and the Broncos, obviously a fair bit more was happening in this one. Bunch of sin bins. Victor Radley getting sin bin 3 times. Looks like Crichton might be facing a few weeks out. Either way, 2 weeks if he takes a guilty plea, 2 weeks if he fails, but he just have some more carryover points, I believe. So really annoying if you have him, but obviously with Origin coming up, he would get suspended for that game as well, if that makes sense. They have the bye anyway in 13, so however that would work, he'd be missing the next 2 weeks if he can't get off that, and it'd just be having to cover him next week. But another great score for him. He did get obviously a try, but just scored across the board there with 4 tackle breaks and a couple offloads there. So well done to him. David Mead actually had a pretty solid game again, so welcome back to him. But 28 average is not great. Palaszczuk should only get a couple of weeks, so unless they prefer him to Ricky and they'll keep him there, which I doubt it. But yeah, a nice little try for him as well, which was good. Pangai with 59, just absolutely terrorised Sam Walker, I believe. All of those tackle busts were from running over Sam Walker, but poor kid. Jeez, imagine trying to tackle Pangai. That would be not fun at all. 59 in your 80 minutes, you're happy with that, with only 22 tackles. Got the try assist there. So he's in a bit of... There's a lot for him to do on that edge there. He can pass actually fairly well. He's got a nice offload. So for him... Is he a chance of playing Origin? Possibly. Oh, that's the other thing with Crichton too, that probably means that Madison's a good chance of playing Origin. So, added to the list of fun things this weekend. Tupanua with 57, so a nice try, a bunch of tackle breaks, 3 line breaks. He was really strong, but obviously went off for HIA as well, which stopped him from playing the 80. Teddy was pretty good, really happy with his efforts. 55 points with his 3 try assists there. Pretty much all at the start of the game was the majority of his points, so then sort of slowed it down as the Roosters started getting beat, which I can't believe. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Can we mention that the Broncos actually beat the Roosters and actually played okay? So well done. We'll give you that. Turpin with some decent scores again. Payne Haas with 51, so yeah, a lower game for him, but it's kind of standard. Like that's his floor really, a 50. That 40 odd was a bit of a random one, but yeah, two lower scores in a row is not ideal for Payne, and I think he's going to be a really nice option in 14 or 15 for most people. Joey Manu, really happy with his involvement and his running sideways. Good work. There's a couple ones he actually ran straight and ran through the pack, but to get 8 tackle breaks, 21 tackles, was really getting in there hard, but I'm a bit worried about him with those 2 high tackles in a matter of a minute, as if that'll get him some carryover points and he might have to spend some time on the sidelines, but we'll find out. I haven't heard anything yet, but really happy with this score, and he's back over that 40 average now. So again, someone pretty cheap. He'd be cool to pick up in like around 14 if the Roosters start playing a bit better and more consistent. Taukeiaho with a 44 in his 46 minutes, so still not big minutes, playing off the bench, doing okay. I wouldn't be looking at picking him up. Albert Kelly's an interesting one. I think a few people would have picked him up at 246, but actually played pretty solidly. His first kick back in the NRL was kicked out in the full, so that was not great. So 5 missed tackles, 3 errors, but his actual gameplay and game management was actually pretty solid, And you'd imagine both of these guys don't get dropped over the next few weeks. So if you need someone for 13, then he could be an option for you, but we'll work it out during the week. Fleggs with 39 in his 38 minutes. Did have a couple of missed tackles and a penalty, but nothing too crazy. Just didn't get the minutes that we would have thought, and was looking at a pretty low score until he got that little bit of a runaway and try assist there with a flick to go the length for David Mead. So yeah, a bit annoying, but I suppose you take the 39, but it's like, remember I said that price point around that 370, 380. If you're picking him up, then you're needing 45 to 50 to make it really worth it, and they make a lot of cash and obviously help your scoring, because it's like, well, do you play Flegler if you've got him in your team? If you've got 18 or 19 players available, which I know most people don't, but is he worth playing at getting a 35 or a 40? So that's the question there. Asako with 35 is okay. Again, you're holding him until 13. Tyson Gamble with 33, obviously got Simbin right at the end of the game, which was annoying for him. So a much better game fantasy-wise, only 3 missed tackles, which was good. So he was sitting at 40 with a few minutes to go and didn't get any further. So yeah, you're happy with the 33, but obviously won't make any money with that higher break-even after that low score. But that's that there. Lockie Lamb with the lower score. So again, someone we just want to have a look at over the next bunch of weeks and see what happens with him. At that awkward sort of 440 price point, and similar with Rads. If he look at this, 2 Simbins. I only got 2 Simbins in the end. There was a chance he was going to get the third, but yeah, a bunch more penalties. Obviously 4 penalties, and then only 1 miss and the 1 error. So kind of scored pretty well when he was on there, but just too many demerits with negative 22 there, and he should be missing some time as well, unfortunately. Benny Marshke, another one of those guys that sort of made a decent amount of cash, but if you're picking him up a week or two ago after that big score, it's you haven't really benefited from that with all those tackles that 1 week. Joseph Suwali, it was nice to see him play. There's been a lot of talk about him, and I think he held his own. If we're being honest, wanted to get in the work, ran hard. Can't really say much more about his efforts there, which was good. Kobe Hetherington was an okay free starter. And yeah, this is where we get a bit upset with Sammy Walker, and just wasn't his night, obviously, with the Roosters not winning. And of course, with Spencer Leniu being named on the bench for the Panthers, I was not able to loop Roger like was my plan. It was the second game of the round. I was like, all right, I'll put him in the 5 position. If he gets like a 30 on the wing, then I won't play him. If he goes well, I'll just loop him for Leniu, and then of course he comes back. I then have to play Walker because Walker was the guy I had put in like number 21 as my non-player. Comes on and gets 6. So everyone just give me a virtual hug, please, just to make me feel a little bit better. But we'll talk about the next game, and there was 1 good and 1 bad in there with the Storm and the Raiders, and I'm sure you can work that one out as to who the bad and who the good was. And we start with the good, and I obviously brought in Nicho Hynes this week, and he was incredible. Wow. Everything. Just everything. 13 tackle breaks, 200 meters, try assists, goals, line breaks, whatever the hell you want. A turnover tackle to save a try. He was incredible. And yeah, whoever ends up picking him up next year is going to be a really, really, really lucky team, because he is a very, very good player. Obviously in a nice side, but he's, you can just see he's smart. He knows what he's doing. He's obviously pretty young, but yeah, so knows what he's doing, and he was awesome. And I think he's owned by just under 6% of teams. So obviously if you picked him up this week, you got a nice leg up on the other squads. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about some of the other guys one of the other guys I brought in. But Nelson, Lewis, Smithy, if you hold Smithy, well done. Picked up 3 tries this early in the game. Just did a bit of everything, ran the ball well. So you're happy with that, and definitely holding over the next few weeks, especially with all these suspensions and injuries, because that's been crazy. Like, trades are going to be so important through this next period. I think there's going to be a lot of people that run out of trades with 5-6 games to go and are finishing the year with 14-15 players. So if you can hold off, guys, if someone's like marginally, they're doing okay kind of thing, it's probably worth just holding them rather than trading, because the likelihood of you using a trade, getting a guy in, and then that person you're trading gets suspended or something is so much higher than it used to be. So just keep that in mind when you're going through your trades. Georgie Williams was 60. Harry Naira was 60. So well done if you picked up him. He would have been a much nicer pickup. Or Reece Walsh compared to... Where is this ticket? 31. Bro. 31 for Starling. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Welshie, we had Christian with 48 in his 51 minutes, so pretty solid. Turnover tackle, 3 offloads, not too much else, which was fine. Again, you're probably moving him on at 13, or if he's someone that's pretty solid and you can be scoring okay, but you can kind of just just deal with what he's doing in his slightly under 50 scores, and then that'll be fine and probably worth holding there. Remus Smith with 48, kind of showing that he's probably almost a keeper in the centres there, which is good. And just someone you just got to keep holding. Plays 13, keep it up with him. Who else we can talk about there? Chewy was 41. It's probably, after 13 is definitely a time to move him on. After some of the decent work that he's done, averaging 42 over the first little period there. We'll move along to the last few guys. Jennings has been okay over the last bunch of weeks, but he's probably a bit too expensive. Ryan Sutton was a good welcome back for him with 53 minutes for 37. But again, someone you can probably wait a little bit. He'll be interesting if he can lose a little bit of cash over the next few weeks to get back to a big minute role in round 14 or 15 as someone that could be potentially a keeper for you. We'll move down to Starling, and obviously someone that I brought in and was a little bit unlucky. Obviously, the first sort of 15 minutes they had all the ball, so he didn't have to do any tackling. And then 30 odd minutes in, he hurts his leg, which was a missed tackle, and then he gets tackled over the line twice by Nelson, who one was almost a try saver, which he gets a couple of missed tackles for. So that he was very, very early on, like 5-6 missed tackles, which was pretty shitty. And then just didn't get to run the ball. Obviously he's not going to run the ball when he's injured. So it's just a tidal wave of crap when you're picking up a guy that you're looking to average over 50. It just none of it worked out, and I can't blame it on anyone. It's just how it goes. But it's not exactly what we want. I've kind of been lucky a few of the weeks now. Like obviously picked up Dewey when he got 100. I've got Nico Hynes with 100 now. Dewey ends up getting 27 and playing in the centres, but whatever is what it is. So if you picked up Starling, don't stress about him unless he's going to be out for the next few weeks. But not ideal when I could have picked up Reece Walsh, for example. Hudson Young with the lower game with 27. That's about it. Oh, actually, we got one more to go. Olam 2. Picked him up in the people squad this week, and he goes for a 2. That's beautiful. 6 tackles and 7 missed tackles. So what on to you, Olam. 92 meters and 1 tackle break. So you'd imagine that never happens again with him and Adokar getting 2 and 11. So just nothing happened down that left hand side with no Munster and no Pap. So hopefully that doesn't stick around for these guys. But if it does, then we're in a little bit of strife. But there you go, guys. That's the 3 games for Saturday. I hope you enjoyed those ones. Please hit like, subscribe if you are, and we'll catch you in the Sunday games. Have a good day, guys.